Hello viewers, good day to all and thank you so much for tuning in. I'm Ron Grant and you're watching 284 Media out of Tortola in the beautiful British Virgin Islands. Every September, people come together from all around the world to raise awareness and to challenge the stigma that persists around dementia. September 2021 actually marks 10th anniversary of this very vital global awareness raising campaign. September 21st also marks World Alzheimer's Day. Now on September 21st, persons of course wear purple in solidarity to the cause of Alzheimer's awareness. This year's month focuses on dementia, with the theme being No Dementia, No Alzheimer's, and it is all about the power of knowledge. In support of this campaign, 284 Media, we are shining light on the warning signs of dementia and of course the importance of a timely diagnosis. Today we are joined by Mrs. Janice Braithwaite Edwards, a Virgin Islander past caregiver for someone with dementia. We take a personal look at the journey and of course the challenges that come with caring for someone with this disease. All this and so much more after a word from our sponsors. You're watching 284 Media.
You value traditions.
Today,
You value music. You value education. Family.
I love you.
Service.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Love. Life. At Popular, we're committed to you and everything our community values. For the things you value the most, count on us. Popular.
Viewers, welcome back. Thank you so much for sticking with us. As promised, I am joined by the lovely Mrs. Braithwaite Edwards. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Welcome to 284 Media. Of course, we're talking Alzheimer's, and of course, the focus this year is dementia. You have personal, first-hand experience as a past caregiver of working with someone who had dementia. Can you tell us a little bit about your story?
Actually, Ron, I was in college in the United States and my dad came to visit me. And when he came to visit me, I realized that it wasn't the dad that I knew. And so, based on the fact that I was going to a school that had medical attention there, I was given the opportunity to have someone come to the house, stay with me for 2 days, and actually be able to diagnose what was wrong with Dad.
Wow. And what are some of the signs that you saw as a college student that made you think that that wasn't the dad you know?
My dad became a hoarder. And when I say a hoarder, I'm talking about not hoarding regular things. For instance, my dad had just come back from Sydney, Australia.
Okay.
And when I opened his suitcase, there were pots, there were pans, there was chicken that he had eaten from probably the week before. And there's rope, there was knives, there were things that, to me, if you were traveling, would make sense.
Okay.
And so those things concerned me because when questioning him, it was very defensive as to why you need to know this or why you need to know that. And that was not the dad that I knew.
Understood. So after getting that individual medical attention from your college to come and observe and then receiving a diagnosis, what was the road like after that?
Actually, he wondered why I had done it because if you had any idea who my dad was, he was the Commissioner of Inland Revenue in the British Virgin Islands. So when you see that type of deterioration from somebody at that level, it concerns you. And one of the things that was very prevalent was his aggression. You know, everything was on the defensive. And I wondered why, because I was his little devil, as he would call me. And now I am playing devil's advocate. Why are you doing this? And so he stayed with me for 4 months in the United States, and we were able to get some treatment for him. And then he came back to the BVI. I returned to the BVI about 4 months after he did come back, and then started to notice things getting even worse.
Wow.
And I'm talking about stuff like sitting in a trash can, wearing the same clothes for 3-4 days, even though you're saying, Daddy, you need to put on these clothes today. Let me wash those clothes. No, he wanted to keep wearing the same clothes. And it's painful. It's very, very painful. Support-wise, I don't think my mom wanted to deal with it. And so she said, you better handle this.
Okay.
And then my siblings, they were like, it's a little bit too much for them. And it is very hard for you to look at your father deteriorate like that. But at the end of the day, I decided I would make the commitment to help him. and I did. Eventually, I had to put him in a home.
Okay.
But even when he went to the home, the tone cooled down. He realized that it was more than him and that I was really trying my best to help him.
Understood.
Yes.
Now, upon the initial diagnosis, was he working at the time or had he already?
No.
Okay.
I think what had happened is my dad was working and he had us and he was planning on how he would educate us. So his thing was to work until at least 50% of us were off to school. That didn't happen. He got a call. They said to him, you need to think about retirement, something that hadn't crossed his mind. And one of the things about this disease is when you get those type of blows,
Right.
they really react on your brain, and the brain starts to malfunction because you're not prepared for that type of thing, and then you're suddenly off into early retirement. You haven't prepared properly for it, and so all of those things play a complex part in what happens when you get this disease.
Understood. I have to talk about the journey between actually caring for them, and you mentioned that at one point he ended up in a home. You put him in a home. Many persons who are caring for someone with dementia sometimes feel like they could do it on their own. They sometimes feel as though they don't want to involve the public. Families, as we know in the BVI, could be very close-knit and extremely private. Speak to us about the decision that you and your family made to put your dad in a home and get assistance.
The decision was a tough decision. He didn't want to go. Sitting down talking with the siblings, they weren't able to help me. I was at the top of the BVI Tourist Board as a director. It was very difficult for me to balance both. You had to make a conscientious effort as to whether we wanted our father to do well or not do well. And then there were other issues like diabetes, hypertension that needed treatment, that had he not been in a home, we couldn't get the treatment.
Understood.
We couldn't get the treatment.
What do you think persons need to understand most about caring for someone with dementia?
I think we need to understand the changes that happens in the brain. And I'm not going to pretend like I knew everything. I did get a lot of help from the continental United States based on the fact that I was in a medical school at the time. And they trained you how to deal with them. And so by the time I got back to the BVI, it was a little easier to deal with. You cannot do it on your own. It's a community-minded situation, and I must say the British Virgin Islands community did help me. When people saw things that looked at normal, they would come and say, Jan, I'm seeing your father in this location. Jan, Jan, can you, then sometimes when you take them to the hospital, because of his aggression, you get the pushback there because the medical people are not sure what's really going on. So it is very tough, but the British Virgin Islands Society needs to understand that together we can get through this. Together we need to help one another. When you see the signs, you need to make the effort to get those signs diagnosed. And as I sit here and I speak to you, one of my employees is going through that right now. So we're trying to see how best we can get the help that the employee needs so that we can move forward. But the challenge with this employee is the aggression also. Very aggressive, very protective of ourselves. During the lockdown, we asked the employee to stay home. Police had to come to the house and say, Mrs. Edwards, your employee is on the job. We locked down, she's on the job. And so I went, and I talked to her. We had a conversation. She understood. She said, next day she was back. So you have to work with it with kids' gloves. I can remember one night finishing work at 9, and the place is open, and I'm like, 9 o'clock? Why is it open? So I went. She's there. She said, I just took my sister to dialysis. She hasn't driven in like 50 years.
Wow.
So, but I just let that roll off my back because I realized now we have an issue. We're actually trying to work the issue out. To send her home is to make bad matters worse.
Understood.
And so we're not going to send her home, but at the same time, we need to manage the situation.
Now, I am so thankful that you have had the ability to come and share your personal story. As we're talking, I can see you tearing up because it's a very close, painful situation to you. Your dad has since passed away, and you've now been able to speak on this matter. I have to talk about the stigma that is within our community. It carries a lot of weight. Persons usually feel that when diagnosed with dementia, it's end all. And then you also also see in some cases where the community then reacts differently to these individuals. What do you say about that?
I'm concerned because we need to remember, and this is one of the things they taught me, who that person was. We can't afford to forget. In spite of what is going on, we still need to remember who they were, the contributions they made, and really act out those contributions. Because, for instance, with my dad, he would talk about his visit to the Queen in 1966, and he would talk about it like it's yesterday. But we need to be able to embrace what the individual has gone through and try to work with them. For him, it became easier when we could say, yes, I understand. Yes, you did go and see the Queen. Yes, you had a great experience. Those things help them to juggle the memory and bring things back to life.
Understood. Yes. As we reflect on the life and legacy of your dad, prior to dementia, tell us about him. Who was he?
My father was the Commissioner of Inland Revenue, a very tough man, a very upstartled man, a man who, when he was dressed, it was to the nines. And then, so the change made a lot of difference to us. Very immaculate, very particular. I mean, I could remember going to school and he was like, do you have your half slip on? In those days, it was that kind. He wanted to make sure that you were prepared for the world. And then when this thing happens, everything turns opposite.
Amazing. Thank you so much for coming today again and sharing your story. You are not a member of the BVI Alzheimer's Association, but you are lending your voice to the cause and support in any way that you can for Alzheimer's. As we continue to celebrate, of course, viewers, not celebrate, but raise awareness and really bring some compassion to the cause. Mrs. Braithwaite Edwards, thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
Absolutely, viewers. That's all the time we have. We'll see you soon. Bye-bye.